Hey there guys, Zach here for Windows Central and welcome back to another video. Now today we're taking a look at the Windows 10 Full Creators Update. This is Microsoft's next major version of Windows 10 that's packing a number of new features and enhancements over the last major version of Windows known as the Creators Update that was released earlier this year. So yes, this is the Creators Update Part 2, hence its name Full Creators Update. Microsoft is continuing its theme of putting creators first. Now of course, much like the original Creators Update, this isn't an update that's entirely for creators. There's a lot of improvements in this update that will benefit normal users as well. So if you're somebody who doesn't create very often on your device, don't worry, this update is also pretty useful to you. So without wasting any more time, let's dive straight in with the first noteworthy change, and that's to do with the user interface and the design language of Windows. So starting with the Full Creators Update, Microsoft is introducing a new design language called Fluent Design. And what this essentially means is over the course of this release and the next release coming early next year, you'll see a lot of the Windows UI change and get better. So right now it looks pretty much the same. There's a few smaller enhancements. So for example, the Action Center has been updated with a new design that looks a little bit better than it was previously. Now notifications are in their sort of own box, just like a sort of card, which make them stand out a lot more. And notifications themselves, when they pop up, have been redesigned slightly as well. So if we go into the notifications visualizer and preview one, you can see that it now floats in the bottom right instead of being hooked to the end of the screen here, which is very nice indeed. I think it looks a lot better than it did before. If we click on that, that will open up the app it came from, and then we can go into here, and if there's any in here, we can simply clear them, which is very nice indeed. So yes, a slight update to the notification center. Now, Fluent Design is showing up in some areas elsewhere as well. So, for example, you can't see it here. If I turn my theme to dark, you'll be able to see it better. There's a new sort of hover effect known as Reveal in the Full Creators Update, which sort of follows your cursor around certain elements of the system, which looks very nice. It gives it a nice sort of futuristic look, I guess. And if we click on one of these, there'll be a nice sort of circle animation that pops up there, which is very nice, as you can see there. This is shows up in some places. There's also more blur effects throughout the system now. So if it's hard to see here again as well. If we turn this on to dark mode, you can see that there is slight blur effects here. We're behind the title bar of the Edge app here, which is very nice. A very subtle change. A lot of these Fluent Design changes are very subtle, so without being told, you may not even notice them. So I think that's for the best anyway. So yes, Fluent Design elements are starting to show up here, there, and everywhere throughout the system. You'll notice over the course of this release and the release coming early next year, a lot more of the system will be updated with Fluent Design and will look better overall. So yes, very nice indeed. This is a change that I'm sure many of you who appreciate design will enjoy. But for those of you who don't care about design, don't worry. These changes are very subtle anyway, so you're not really going to notice it in this release. So moving right along, the next noteworthy change is to do with the taskbar, more specifically a new feature called My People. There's a new My People hub, and what this allows you to do is pin your favorite contacts directly to your taskbar for quick access to conversations and file sharing. So as you can see here, the My People area is suggesting contacts that I should pin. Let's pin me so I can give a demo of the Skype stuff and whatnot. So as you can see here, my face is now pinned to the taskbar by default. So no matter what I'm doing in the system, I'm always available in the taskbar for quick access to file sharing and whatnot. So in a real life scenario, I wouldn't pin myself, I'd pin a friend or somebody who I contact often. But since I have no friends, I'm going to have to use myself as a demo person here. So if we open up me, you can see it's going to open up in Skype, and I can begin messaging myself. So hello there, and that will send to my other Skype account. And then, of course, they can send messages back and I'll receive them much like I would normally as a notification. If we go up to the hamburger menu here, we can switch apps, and this will show you all of the apps that are linked to this contact. So I've got Mail and I've got the People app as well. So this will give me all my contact details, which I won't click because it's got my phone number in there. Then I've also got the Mail app, which will allow me to see all the emails I've sent to this person and they've sent back to me. So we've got a thread going here between myself. I know this is a very sad demo, I understand. If we go in here, I can send another email saying, hey, test, this is another test. I can send that off, and that will create a new thread between me and this person, and that should hopefully show up here as well. There we go, that's very nice indeed. Not only that, you can also receive an animated emoji that pop up on the desktop. So if you've got a contact pinned to the taskbar and they've connected to Skype, they can send you an emoji, and that emoji will pop up on the taskbar with an animation, which actually looks pretty cool. So if we do a thumbs up one here and send that to myself, you'll see on the desktop there's a big thumbs up emoji, and if I click on it, that will open up my Skype conversation, and I can now begin typing away much like I would expect. So yes, don't worry if this is something that you're not going to enjoy. You can disable the feature. So if you've got somebody in your contacts list who you've pinned and they just want to constantly bombard you with animated emoji, you can turn the feature off and it will no longer bother you. But yes, it's a very nice feature. You can also pin up to 3 people on the contacts bar, so I can actually pin Dan here and I can begin emailing Dan if I want to, or contacting Dan via Skype. And I can also unpin contacts as well. So if I unpin myself here, I will go away and Dan will remain. And the My People stuff also hooks into the share UI. So if we like sharing, so if you're somebody who likes sharing things via this sort of share button in Edge or in other apps, let's go to a website so I can use it. You can see that the people that you've pinned to your taskbar or contact frequently show up in the People UI. So you can see here I've got Dan here, and I can select Dan, and I can now email this web page to Dan without having to open up the Mail app or manually go into a different app to do so. So that's very nice indeed, a nice additional function that hooks into My People as well. So yes, if we go back into the People Hub, we can also see all of the apps we have connected to it. Right now, we've only got 3. Some third-party apps do support it already, and hopefully down the line, more people will begin supporting it with their own social apps. But for now, out of box, we have 3 default ones from Microsoft, which is plenty for people who only email and Skype, for example. So yes, and also if you look closer, you can see more of that Fluent Design stuff, that hover effect, which is very nice indeed. And if I click on one of these, I get that sort of circle animation, which is very nice indeed. So yes, that's a very quick look at My People. A nice feature indeed. Moving right along to the next noteworthy change, and that's to do with OneDrive. So in the full Creators Update, Microsoft has fundamentally changed how OneDrive works. No longer do you have to sync all of your files to see your entire library on your system. You can now view your library without having to download any files at all. So they stay in the cloud. They're called cloud files, and they don't take up any space on your hard drive. So let's show you how that works. So as you can see here, there's a new status sort of bar, and that houses a bunch of different icons. The cloud icon is those files that are saved in the cloud and aren't available locally, which means if I'm not connected to the internet, I cannot access these files. They still act like normal files, however, when I am connected to the internet. So if I go into music here, you can see I've got 2 songs that are in the cloud. These aren't locally saved on my device. This is a 5 megabyte, a 4.90 megabyte file, and that's not on my hard drive at all. That's currently saved in my OneDrive in the cloud. And if I double click it, it'll take just a few seconds to open because it has to download. But once it has downloaded, it will start playing much like any normal file. It's now taking up space on my hard drive, however. So if I'm someone with very limited space, once I'm done with this file, I can close out of Groove. And as you can see, it's now gone to a green tick, which means it's now locally saved on my device. I can right click it and I can free up space, and that will now sync that file back up to the cloud and delete it from my hard drive. Very nice indeed. This also works with documents, photos, pretty much any file that you can save in OneDrive, it works with. So you can see down here, this file here is locally on my drive right now, which means if I was disconnected from the internet, I'd be able to access it anyway. If I right click on this file, I can also select always keep on this device, which tells OneDrive no matter what, never remove this file to free up space. So if I select that, this icon will go dark green, which means now I know to never remove this file no matter what. So very nice indeed. If we go in here, you can see that this sort of test document is in the cloud. If I double click it, that will open up in Notepad. I can continue editing it, and then I can save that, and you'll see that that has now been synced to the cloud already. It's now still local on my device, but if I want to, I can now free up that space, and that file is now saved and back in the cloud and no longer stored on my local hard drive. So yes, this is a very nice addition, something that many people have been asking for quite some time, so it's great to see in the full Creators Update. Up next is a feature for creators, something called Story Remix, which is now built into the Photos app. So if we go to Photos here, you'll see that there's a new Create button. And what this allows you to do is remix videos and pictures together, which is very nice indeed. So the video remix is a nice sort of quick way to clump some of your videos together and or have the app automatically mash it up and add music to it and stuff. So if we select pretty much everything here, all 3 of my stock images, 4, 5. Actually, I think it'll only add the videos. It might add images. Let's try it. And here we go. So the app has now created a video for me automatically. It's added its own music, its own theming, whatever, and it looks pretty nice. Of course, if you don't like what the app has done for you, you can remix it again, and it will change up content style, music, and etc. And it'll give you a video of the same content, but in a different order with things removed or added. Let's try it again. And if you really still don't like that, you can edit the video yourself. So this will take you to a dedicated video editor that allows you to rearrange pictures and video and change the theming of stuff, add text, music, whatever. So if we add text here, classic. This is awesome. Done. That's now there in that area. We can also change themes. So there's that theme, for example. There's also classic. There's also chilled. And there's no theme. I like the electric theme, actually. So let's do this. Done. We can also change the music. So there's lots of different songs you can choose from here. You can also use your own music if you like, which is pretty nice. Funky strut, yeah. Happy beat. Let's use happy beat. Why not? Done. So there we go. So hopefully we've made our edits. Let's move this to the end here. We can also add motion and 3D effects. So if we can have this one to zoom in on the center. Oh, I minimized it. And then, of course, we can also add 3D effects, which is also pretty nice. Blizzard. Yes. This is great. So let's hopefully see what this looks like. Very realistic, don't you think? But yes, that's pretty awesome. So if we add that to our video, that will now render that file with the effect I've just applied. So this will take just a second. And there you go. So I can now render this file. I can share it with my friends. So there's 3 options to choose from here. You can have low quality, which takes the quickest amount of time to render. Then we've got medium quality, which is best for sharing online. Then the longest quality, which is the highest quality possible, which will take a little bit longer to render, of course. So for our sake, we're just going to do a quick one, which should take just a few seconds. And there's our video. I can now view that in File Explorer. I can view it in the Photos app, or I can share directly to social media. Let's view it in File Explorer, because then I've also made one before, as you can see. I can now move both of these to my OneDrive. Go into videos here. And they will instantly begin syncing up to the cloud, and then I can remove these from my from my local disk and have them stored in OneDrive, which is fantastic. So yes, sync is pending. So in the background now, that should sync up to OneDrive and delete it from my hard drive, freeing up space, which is fantastic. So yes, that's a very quick look at Story Remix, a pretty awesome feature. Moving right along to the next noteworthy change. This is something that those of you who like emojis are going to enjoy. So if we jump into Edge here, or any web page or text field, and press the Windows key and the semicolon button, there's a new dedicated emoji panel, and this simply allows me to easily insert emoji into any text field that I'm selected. So if I'm in Twitter, for example, I can press the Windows key and the semicolon button at the same time, and that will bring up the emoji panel, which I can now insert. You can also search for emojis, so just by typing. So if I type for pretzel here, that'll bring up pretzel, and if I hit enter, that will now insert the pretzel emoji. So yeah, this is fantastic for those of you who love inserting emojis. There's also different categories of stuff here you can look through, and there's also Emoji 5.0 support, which is really quite nice. Not only that, there's a new swipe keyboard available in the full Creators update. So if we open up Notepad here and open up the swipe keyboard, it's a much smaller keyboard than the normal one. So this is what the normal one looks like. So you can continue typing as normal with this one. But if you're somebody who likes swiping through words rather than typing them with each individual letter, you can now swipe through them much like you would on a Windows phone or an Android device or a third-party iPhone keyboard. So we can say the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy lady? No. Lazy dog. So yeah, this is great for those of you who have tablets who don't necessarily have a physical keyboard and want to swipe between your letters rather than type them one by one. So this is actually faster for some people as well, which is very nice indeed. So moving on to some other input improvements, you can now scroll any element in the system with a pen. No longer do you have to manually select the scroll bar before you can scroll. You can just simply scroll through lists now at any location in that list with a pen, which is very nice indeed. This is something that many people have been complaining about. So in the last release, if you were using a pen and needed to scroll through a web page or a list, you would have to grab the actual scroll bar, because if you were to try and scroll anywhere else in the list, it would just pick up or start drawing. But for now, it no longer does that, which is great. Now, Task Manager has received an additional new thing. This is going to be great for gamers. If we go into more details here, you can see that we now have GPU information, so we can see how our GPU is going. This is going to be great for those of you who are gamers who have really beefy GPUs. You can see your GPU performance in here and see how things are going, which is very nice. So moving on to Microsoft Edge. Microsoft Edge has received a few noteworthy new changes in this release. First of all, let's talk about the favorite stuff. Microsoft has updated how favorites are handled with Microsoft Edge. So if we add a favorite here to our favorites hub, let's call this Windows Central, you can see that I can now change where this is saved in. I can now create new folders and move it around directly from this UI without having to go into the favorites hub. So if I create a new folder here and call it Tech Sites, I can save Windows Central into my Tech Sites folder. And if you saw up there, there was a nice sort of animation that jumped from there to there. And I can now find this favorite in, where's my favorites? So it is, I can now find this favorite here in my Tech Sites folder. Not only that, you can now pin websites to your taskbar as well. So if you pin this page to the taskbar, you can see that now this website is now pinned, so I can quickly access it whenever I need to directly from the taskbar, which is very nice indeed. Now, the PDF reader in Edge has also been updated in this release. You can now ink directly on it without having to, download another separate PDF app. Edge now supports inking directly on PDFs. So if we go to Surface User Manual here, this is the PDF I know I can download for free. We open that up here. You'll see if I select the inking button, no longer will it tell me, hey, you can't do that. It would simply just allow me to start drawing. I can highlight stuff, and then I can get rid of that, and that ink will now save directly to the PDF, which is really quite handy for those of you who do need to ink on PDFs. There's also a new read aloud feature, which will begin reading out the
with Windows RT 8.1
the PDF.
software published March 2014.
And this feature is actually also present on pretty much any web page. So if we go back to Windows Central here, you'll see that I can select read aloud on that web page, and that web page will begin being read aloud by the narrator, which is very nice. So this is great for those of you who may not be able to see the screen very clearly. So right click, read aloud.
Thumbs up. The Windows 10 Fall Creators Update Fast Ring build is now stable enough to rely on.
So there you go. So yeah, I'll read through web pages much like you would expect. And then apart from that, there's a bunch of new under the hood improvements that make Edge a lot more faster and more reliable, and just general improvements really. So yes, a lot of nice additions to Microsoft Edge that I'm sure many people will appreciate. If you're not an Edge user, of course, you probably won't care. But for everybody else, yeah, Edge is getting better and better with every release. Moving on to the Settings app. The Settings app has a bunch of new features and functions worthy of note. So up first is something called phone linking. What this allows you to do is link your Android or iPhone device to your Windows 10 PC and allows you to send web pages and other things directly to your PC from your phone. So no longer do you have to email yourself a link to access it on another device. You simply just send it to your PC via your phone. So this works via the Cortana app and something called Continue on PC. So what you do is you select add a new phone here, you type in your number, and Microsoft will send you a link to download an app. You download and log into that app, and then you'll see your phone listed here. Then on your phone, all you need to do is go to the web browser of choice, select the share function, and then select continue on PC. You should then be able to find your PC in that list, select it, and that web page will instantly open up in Edge on your PC, which is very nice. So yes, a very nice feature, great for those who are constantly switching between devices on the web. Very nice indeed. Moving on, the next noteworthy change is Cortana now has its own area in settings. So Cortana's settings itself haven't really changed, but they're here now in settings, a lot more consistent with other settings in the system. But yes, Cortana is now here in the settings app, and that looks pretty nice. There's a new video playback option. So if we type video playback here, you can see that there's new features for those of you who like watching videos. So there's a bunch of new options, such as being able to enable and disable HDR video. That only works for those of you with HDR monitors. There's also an option to automatically process video to enhance it, allow video to play at a lower resolution, and battery optimization options. So if you're somebody who watches a lot of video on a laptop or a tablet, and you want to get the most battery life out of your device as possible, you want to optimize for battery life. But if you're somebody who prefers visual quality over battery life, you can change that to optimize to video quality. And that will change functions there, much like you would expect. So that's very awesome. Storage Sense has been updated as well. It's now got a slightly new user interface, and it has more options for deleting things automatically now. So you can now make it so Storage Sense will delete files in your downloads folder after 30 days, which will help free up space. Delete temporary files, delete files that have been in the recycling bin for more than 30 days. You can also make it so it deletes your previous version of Windows. So this function, for those who don't know, when you upgrade to each major build, Windows automatically keeps that old install you had in the background just in case something goes wrong. But if you upgrade to a new version and everything's working much like you would expect, you can delete it and it'll free up about 3 gigs of space. So if we clean now, that will begin clearing up all of our files and settings, and that should free up a lot of space on our hard drive here. If we go into Windows Update, this is a more behind the scenes feature, but Microsoft has changed how Windows Update behaves. No longer will Windows Update try to download updates with all of the bandwidth you have available. It will now it'll be far more conservative when it's using bandwidth. So if you're watching a video, for example, and Windows Update is downloading updates in the background, you will still be able to watch that video. Windows Update will say, hey, I can see you're watching a video. Here's all the bandwidth you need to watch that video. We'll have the rest of the bandwidth to do updates. So we can also change how this works. If we go into advanced options here and go to delivery optimization, go to advanced options here, we can see that there's a bunch of new options. We can select limit how much bandwidth is used for downloading updates in the background. By default it's 45, but we can make it so it only uses 5% of your bandwidth. So if you're somebody who really doesn't like updates, selecting 5% will make it so it uses only 5% of your bandwidth, which will make updates download slower, but at the same time it won't use as much of your bandwidth, which means you can be playing games online or watching video without having any interruptions. Down here you can now see how much monthly upload data your Windows Update is using, plus a bunch of other things, which is really quite nice. Finally, there's a bunch of new ease of access options in the full Creators Update. If we go here, go down to color and high contrast, there's a new filter option which allows you to change filters on your screen. So if you're somebody who prefers looking at a screen in grayscale, you can select that, and now the screen will be all grayscale, color will be removed, and that will be easier to look at for you. There's also different filters, so we've got inverted here, which will change things to white. Then we've got a whole bunch of other ones for those of you who may need it. Now, there's a new app called Mixed Reality Viewer in the full Creators Update, which allows you to place virtual sort of 3D models in the real world via your camera. So if we go up here and select Mixed Reality, it will now open up my camera on the device. And now I can now select where to place this. And now, as you can see, that item is now being placed virtually in the real world, much like on ARKit on the iPhone or Snapchat or something. So yes, this is a nice feature that Microsoft are pushing in the full Creators Update. There's also a big push for mixed reality in general. So Microsoft have built an entire new virtual reality home for those of you with VR headsets that support Windows Mixed Reality. We'll be doing a more in-depth video on that at a later date, but that is also part of the Creators Update and is a pretty exciting feature. So yes, that's pretty much it for the full Creators Update. This is an update that includes a lot of new features and functions, most of which are minor, but make an overall great release. So yes, stay tuned to Windows Central for more regarding the full Creators Update, including a tour of the Windows Mixed Reality VR stuff. Very exciting indeed. Thanks so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye-bye.